Hello crypto heroes, welcome back to another CryptoPunk tutorial. It's Tang and
Michael.
here today, and we're gonna dive deep into creating the CryptoPunk in Photoshop. I gathered all the questions that you had from the previous video on the CryptoPunks. You know, there were so many of them, and I am really grateful for that. So I just assume that you are also super into punks because they are cool. They are, yes, the hot NFTs. So if you are new into punks, just watch the previous video where I explained everything, because in this video we're gonna really just dive deep into things that are super related to Photoshop as well. So I just recommend you watching the other one, but if you have watched that one, now it's time to learn and dive deep. So what are you gonna learn today? First, we will learn how to create the pixel grid, because that's the essential background for drawing the punks, because they are all made from those squares, so you definitely need that grid. Secondly, I will show you how to color those squares so you can actually draw the punks, because obviously there are many ways of doing it, but I will show you the easiest and the best way to do it. And lastly, we will learn how to speed up the process of drawing. Oh, and there is finally a free download today, guys. So yes, watch the video until the very end. No more talking, let's grab a tea, of course. And one for you. The pixel grid. So many of you asked for the generator or any plugins that you can use for creating it, but the fastest way is just really using the alt, paste and copy technique. This is Adobe Photoshop. Let's start a new file. The dimensions of our canvas will be 1920 pixels by 1080. Press OK. So this is our canvas completely blank, ready to be filled with our CryptoPunk design. What we know is that CryptoPunk is made of 24 by 24 squares, so we have to create that grid, right? So I'm going to take the rectangle tool here on the left, and now left click while pressing the shift. What it does is that it will make the perfect square for us, and you can also see the dimensions in that little black box. So we'll create the one with 24 pixels by 24 and then release it. What we get now in here is the rectangle in the layer overview here. So if we double click here on that square over here, we can pick any color that we want. So for the simplicity, let's just take this one, or this one. I think I like this color. Okay, so when you are ready, just press OK, and we have the first pixel for our CryptoPunk grid. As I said from the very beginning, the easiest way to create that whole grid is to use copy and paste. So let's zoom in. Now we can see that one square that we made, and we'll do the copy of the rectangle that we made in here. So obviously you can choose between those two layers that we have, right? So I'll pick the rectangle and then press Ctrl J. The second rectangle should pop out. Again, we will do double click on that square here over here and choose a different color. So let's do the light gray. We have to move that rectangle on the right. So let's just simply pick the move tool here on the top and then move it to the right. Again, if you hold shift, you can make the perfect move to the right or left without changing actually the height. So what we want to now do is to just move it right next to the first square. And now, as we all know how to make the copy of the layers, we can do it again. So I will choose the first two rectangles or squares that we made just by holding Shift and clicking on the layers that we want to have picked. And then I will press the Ctrl J again. You can see that it got copied. And now having those two layers chosen, we're gonna use the Move tool again and holding Shift, move it to the right. Again, we have to make sure that there is no space between, those two squares that we just made. And now you can see, and we'll probably know how to make the rest, but I will show you it by demonstrating it again. Hold Shift, pick the first layer, and then choose the very last one, and then press Ctrl J again. Right now we got already 8 out of 24 squares that we wanted. Again, I will pick the Move tool over here, holding Shift and move it to the right. We will obviously use this technique to generate the whole row of 24 squares, so let's do it. You can see how easy it was. We just simply generated 24 squares in just a few seconds basically. So I'm gonna pull this view of layers a little bit up so you can see what's going on in here. So again, we're gonna pick the very top layer in here, holding Shift, picking the last one. Now we have them all selected. And what we want to do now is group them into just sort of a sub layer. So we will now press the Ctrl G, right? Which means that we now have this group over here. We'll just rename it to row 1. And you can see that we have all those squares here under that group. You can also see that now it's pretty straightforward again, but you will see the little twist over here. So what we have to do now is copy the whole row. So just press Ctrl J again. Now pick the Move tool. And now again, when you sort of pull it down with holding Shift, you can again see that it stays within the lines. It doesn't move to the right or left. And so again, what you need to do is to really just align it straight with, the previous row. I'm gonna rename it to row 2, so you know what's going on. For the next move, we need to move and zoom in a little bit. Now having the second row selected, again with the moving tool, we're gonna pull it to the right. Again, hold Shift so it doesn't move anywhere, and just try to align it so you make this, chess sort of board style of the pattern. So yeah, you just try to move it so it perfectly ends, at these corners here. If we zoom out though, you'll see that one of the very last squares will be tilting out. So now we have to take that one and move it to the very start. So I believe it's the very first layer here in the row 2nd. Again, having the Move tool selected, just move it to the very left, and here you are. All right, and now I guess that you all know what's gonna be the next move. Of course, we're gonna select the first and the second row, holding Shift, and again press Ctrl J. Wow, now we have the third and the fourth row ready. Again, pick the Move tool and pull it down. Again, make sure that you align it perfectly with the previous rows. And now we're gonna repeat the same technique until we get 24 rows. Voila, the square grid is now ready. Coloring these squares. Now pay attention, my dear friend. Our square grid of 24 by 24 squares is ready, right? So what you actually want now is to start coloring each of those squares so you can draw the actual CryptoPunk. How are you gonna do that? First, pick the pen tool here on the left. And now, holding Control, you can start selecting each of those squares, right? When the square gets selected, you can see it here on the layer overview. If you double click on the square over here, the color picker will open, and then you can choose any color that you want and then press OK, and then it gets colored right. So with this technique, you can start coloring, the whole CryptoPunk picture. So let's start coloring the silhouette. Speeding up the drawing. It already looks like a CryptoPunk and we just have a silhouette so far, right? So if you have noticed, coloring each square by square is really taking a lot of time, even though it looks perfect, but still this is not really efficient. So we have to figure out and find a way to faster the process. And I'm gonna show exactly how to do it. So this is the silhouette that was drawn by the, slow way of doing it. So I will go and pick the rectangle tool over here. Then I will hold Shift and create a square that is 24 by 24 pixels. We'll give it a black color. You already know how to do that, right? I will rename it to a draw square. And now I will move it with the moving tool over here to the right. And now we're using that as a drawing square, and I will show exactly what I mean by that. So having it selected, press Ctrl J. Now pick the moving tool again, and now we can move it anywhere on that grid that we already made. And you can see how Photoshop is helping us aligning it. So it's super easy to move it around. And so we will position it right to the very start of the silhouette. Now I will press Ctrl T, which will allow me to move and extend, the square as much as I want. So you can see now how efficient it might be if we can just, prolong all the way over here and then press Enter. So let's draw the rest of the silhouette. I will pick the draw square that we made at the very beginning. Again, I will press Ctrl J. With the moving tool, I will move it all the way, where I need to, using the grid. Again, I will press Ctrl T and then, just drag it all the way here on the very end of this square over here. So obviously, you can also copy that rectangle that we already made, let's say here for the year. So I will show you how it works again with that. So having it selected over here, now I know that it's that year. I will click on or press the Ctrl J again. It will copy the whole thingy. Of course, I can move it again here and again press Ctrl T to drag it where I need it to be. Of course, we should imagine that without the original silhouette, it would look like this. So of course, it still works the same. I will just now copy the draw square, the first one that we got. Again, Ctrl J, move it where we needed it to be, right? And then just simply press the Ctrl T, and then of course you can just move it where it has to be, right? So that's the way you would work with this way of making it faster and more efficient way. Now we will apply the same technique with filling the skin color over here. So I will copy the draw square, Ctrl J, moving tool, and move it wherever I need it to be. I will press Ctrl T, to transform the square. Now you can pull it all the way also down here to the sides, and then I'll press Enter. And now I'll double click here and choose a skin color of my choice. Of course, we can make any punk that we actually want, because we now all know that the punks are having a lot of forms. People are creating a lot of variations of those, so we can just really freely go with any color. So let's do, let's say this one. And then obviously we have to fill the rest of the space with the same technique. If you draw the punk, both the silhouette and also the fill of the skin color with this technique, you will get a lot of those layers, which means that of course you would usually want to change the color of everything with just one click, without just picking each of those fillings one by one. So what we will do now is selecting all the layers that are now within the skin color or with the skin color. So I will hold Shift and again choose all those squares, and now I will press Ctrl E. What we will do is merge all those squares and little drawings into just one. And now when I double click, I can now pick the overall color of the whole punk. So I just thought of having, let's say, a different color from the previous one. I'd like to make a pink one, which is nice color too, right? Isn't it? So I'll press OK, and now we have a pink punk. Obviously, what we are missing right now are the eyes, nose, and the mouth. The problem here might also be the fact that you actually are not seeing the grid itself. So the way to see it temporarily, so you can actually draw the those details, is clicking here on the skin and reduce the opacity. So if you reduce it, you can suddenly see that the grid is visible again. So with that, we are able to draw the exact place for the eyes and also the mouth and the nose. So let's do it. I will use again the draw square that we made at the very beginning. So Ctrl J and then move it exactly where it has to be. So the eyes are starting right over here. We'll do a slightly lighter color, but now of course when I know the position of the grid for the eyes, I can just turn the opacity back again so we can see how it actually will look afterwards. Again, we have the right eye ready, and of course we would like to copy that whole eye to the very left, because of course we already do it. So again, we'll go to the layer overview and then select all the squares that are related to that eye, and then we will press Ctrl G, so we'll group the eye. Again, we can rename it also to the eye, and then having that whole group selected, we can press Ctrl J again, and now we have obviously a second eye. When you are not sure if you move the eye within the grid, you can also and always reduce the opacity of the skin down, and then you can again see the grid very nicely, and we can see that the eyes are probably way too tight together, so there's not much of the space. So we can easily, having the moving tool, just and using it and move it a little bit to the left and still being aligned with the grid. So this looks already great. Now let's do the nose and the mouth. So we are almost at the very end. Let's copy the draw square that we created. Put the mouth here, or sorry, the nose first, and then we can copy actually the nose again, move it a little bit down over here, and make it 3 squares big. Okay, so the big reveal of the full pinky CryptoPunk is, yes, it's beautiful and amazing. All right, so the very last thing, of course, that is really important is, yeah, the background. The background is now just that grid. I will show exactly how to get rid of it, but essentially we would just take the rectangle tool and just create any shape that you want, right? Like this. Then we would pick the favorite color of ours. Typically, it's one of those, yeah, it's this one or very similar to this one. Again, make sure that that background is all the way down in here, but you know, above the grid. So having it selected, press Ctrl T, and now we can move it freely around, but as well we can just transform it. So what you will do is just, you know, pulling it all the way so it covers, yeah, the grid that we made at the very beginning, and you can see that it's being done in a very easy way, and voila. Of course, if you double click on that rectangle, you can obviously choose any other color again, and that's, yeah, that's how it's done. And yes, beautiful, my dear creative hero. The punk is done, and we are at the very end of our tutorial. Yes, the free download is available right now. You know, this PSD file is consisting everything that you need to create your CryptoPunk. Yes, the link is in the description below. Yes, super easy. Just open it and then do whatever you like with it. You know, I believe that you will use all the skills that we of course learned today together. And yes, enjoy. My dear creative hero friend, and also the punk lover, please hit the subscribe button if you have not. It will just support everything that we are trying to achieve here together, because, you know, it's not only about me, but also about you and all the other creatives that show up every day and learn and create something new. And all of that we do together. So thank you so much for your time and watching. And until the next time, Thang and
Michael
R.